Hello, everyone, and welcome to Crushing Doubts Q&A every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. It is great to be back here with you after a week off from Memorial Day. For those of you who celebrated in America, for those of you who didn't, we were still off. But we are back this week, and we're back the following week. So I look forward to answering all kinds of questions that I'm sure are going to be brought to us. I did just want to say, kind of as a point of reiteration about what it is that we do here, but also in my program in general with the columns, it's all designed to answer your questions. It's all about getting those questions asked in the first place. So this is a forum to do that, and I really look forward to diving in with you guys. A couple of reminders, garden variety announcements. The next seminars are going to be coming up, the live ones. July 18th is the beginning. That's Monday, July 18th. They're all Monday through Thursday for 2 straight weeks. The next one will be on August 22nd, and the following one on October 3rd. And we've adjusted all sorts of different times so that they can work for different time zones. That includes even an Eastern time at 8:30, I believe, or it might be 8 o'clock. Got to check that. It's on the website, www.crushingdoubt.org. The seminars are designed to take all of that information that you're wondering about mind-body information, and figure out how to distill it down into a system that actually makes sense of what you're hearing everywhere. And then the membership groups, which are going very, very well, are about your moment-to-moment experience. And it allows you to interface with me on a regular basis so I can talk you through what's happening in those columns, how to understand it, and ultimately the question on everybody's minds, how? How do we do this? So let's dive in with the how of today. Dorisa, good to see you on YouTube. It's been a while since I've seen you in person. We used to get to see each other a bunch on the Facebook group, but it's great to see you here, Dorisa. Good to have you. And we're going to dive in, I think, with a preloaded question. And we just got one. Preloaded question got jumped. That's what happens to preloaded questions sometimes. So Karen Isaacs, it's really good to see you here as well. Here is what she said. Per my post Saturday, why is it sometimes easy for me to be in power and tell pain to scram and it goes puff, but sometimes pain takes over? Why can't I just feel the sadness, rage, minus the pain? Okay, Karen, there's a short and a long answer to this. I'm going to give you my short answer first, and then I want you to follow up with me if you want the longer one. The basic reason is simply that you're a moment-to-moment being. So you're not going to be in one place in the same place that you are one time versus where you are somewhere else. So at times, we're feeling really good. And if something comes up and a doubt comes in, we can crush that doubt right away. Other times, let's say we're not feeling so good. Well, doubt has more room to play now. So the way I want you to think about it is, how am I doing? And who I am at the moment is going to determine how this all goes. It's actually very similar to anything. As you guys probably know, because I do talk about it an awful lot, I play basketball once a week. When I go to play basketball, I have a saying, I don't know who I am until I step on that court. And the reason for that is I'm a moment-to-moment being. I could be in a great place and just feel really free and flowing, and my game will show it. Well, the same is true if I'm in a session as a therapist. Hopefully I'm doing a good job no matter what. But there are times where I really feel just on fire. And other times I feel like I'm having to work hard to do the same work. The way I want you to think about this, Karen, is that not only are you a moment-to-moment being, but that you can use the columns to assess who you are at that moment. That's one of the reasons the columns are so useful, is they give you an informational tool to explore, who am I right now? What do I need? What's going on with these columns? I think it'll be really relieving to you to see that it's not an accident, that when you can really just make it go away very easily, it's partly because of who you are right then. But now I'm going to get even more specific. I said I'm going to give you the short answer, and I'm ending up giving you the long answer anyway, because I get excited about these things. But the fact is, the columns can be working differently at different times. So let's say at one moment you are having an emotional experience that's leading to a symptom, but you're working in the doubt column. Well, maybe you need to reassess which column is the primary one, because you've got to hit on the right problem. Whatever it is, the column system is designed to assess what's the right problem to address and kind of sort it out from there. Karen Isaacs adds in response, she says, doubt has more room is a good reminder. Love the basketball, you being a therapist analogy. This is very helpful. It's true no matter what. It can be even small things. I mean, if I'm reading to my kids, I could be stumbling on my words. And it's not just because I might be tired one day versus not. It could be that I just had an interaction that didn't feel so good. And suddenly I'm just not as good. Just remember, you are a moment-to-moment being. Let yourself be that person. Let it flow. And use the columns to analyze when you need to. What's happening? What got me into this state? Is it that there's an emotion that flared up? Whoops, not live on Instagram. I'm going to start the live on Instagram now, guys. That's funny. I usually don't do that. Hello, welcome Instagram. Welcome to Crushing Doubts Q&A. Sorry to bring you in late. I didn't start it. I don't know what happened. Anyways, I see Catherine Toomer says, hi, Dan. For some reason, I couldn't get in on Instagram. Probably my own problem. Now, that's an example of doubt right there. Catherine, guess what? It wasn't your problem. It was my problem. I forgot to start the Instagram. So here we are. You did miss one question, which was Karen Isaacs asking why can she master symptoms at one point versus another. I'll give the short answer just to sum that up. And that is that we're moment-to-moment beings. And we also have these 3 different columns that lead to symptoms for different reasons. So use the columns to assess what's going on and why, and recognize you're never going to be the same person. You're just changing all the time. So in any case, my apologies to the Instagrammers out there. Don't know what happened. You know what? I'm a moment-to-moment being. Something went on. That's what happened. So let me say hi to, I was wondering, I was like, nobody's joining on Instagram. But now, listen, Occam's razor, it's always the simplest solution. I hadn't started it. Lucy Oden, good to see you. Edgar Rivera, my good friend Edgar, he and I do a show called Brothers in Arms with Eric Nieves. It's 2 comedians and me. I get to let my comedic side out, but they also do let me talk about serious things, and they talk about serious things. It's a great show to check out. It's on YouTube or it's on the Spotify podcast if you're joining by audio. So Edgar, great to see you here. Rita, good to see you. Dan Buglio is here. Dan Buglio is one of the heavyweights of the mind-body community as far as I'm concerned. He's helped a ton of people. Dan, you can let me know if I'm misrepresenting this, but a lot of times Dan really helps people get unhooked from the symptoms by recognizing you don't have to be so focused on them. You can become indifferent to them. And, fear versus indifference is a big, big ball of wax. So it actually fits nicely with my model, as a lot of these models do. We just have different ways of talking about it. So Dan, thanks for joining us here. Justine, I see you are here. And Fruit Loopy 422. Used to love Fruit Loops when I was a kid. Haven't had them in a while. It's Life cereal now, which is, still it's a cereal I had when I was a kid. We have discussions about cereal and cake sometimes. Anyways, back to the heart of the matter. We've got a comment coming in from my friend Ross Mark. He says, sounds like you have a sore throat. I do have a sore throat, and it's partially a mind-body symptom. I can get into talking about what that is. He says, you are the best basketball player in Ohio. Well, that is a very nice thing to say, Ross. I'm sometimes not the best player on the court, but sometimes I am. It depends. I'm a moment-to-moment being. Okay, Catherine Toomer, I see you have joined on Instagram. It was not your problem. It was a problem on my end, so thanks for joining us here. Okay, Dorisa said, thanks, that helped me as well about my answer to Karen, so glad to hear it, Dorisa. Okay, Christy Lee McKinney, thanks for joining us here. She says, hi, Dan. In Misa's session, I just want to say this is the latest of my mind-body consultations. We just released session 1 with Misa. And she says, in Misa's session, you mentioned that sometimes people are absent and suppressed from their feelings. When that happens, and it does often, what are the steps to come back to my feelings? Okay. Couple of things that I would say to this, Christy. First of all, I think it's really important that people don't confuse having trouble accessing their feelings with not having them. Everybody has feelings all the time. You are a flowing emotion, just like everyone else is. You've got feelings all the time. So what does that mean? When you can't feel them, what's happening is actually a symptom in and of itself. I point this out sometimes. Numbness is a symptom. Sometimes people think numbness is like a character trait. Oh my God, I don't feel things. That's not what's happening. What's actually happening is a symptom is coming in, and that symptom is numbness. So you have to recognize something's covering over that. If we remove the things that are covering the feelings, we can get there better. But it also takes some practice. For some people, they're very aware of their feelings. Other people are not. If you grew up in a family that wasn't particularly aware of feelings, didn't discuss it much, it's going to feel very foreign to you at first. It's going to take some time to get used to it. So you're asking, what are the steps to come back to my feelings? The first step is don't doubt that they're there. If you doubt that they're there, you won't be able to uncover them. You're going to get in a situation where you just feel like there's nothing to discover here. There's always something to discover here. One thing that I want to add to that, Christy, once you get past the idea that, you get past the doubt that you have the feelings, is to trust your body. Your body expresses your feelings, whether you're in touch with them or not. It's one of the best things about the body. The body does not lie. It's always telling what's going on. And it doesn't take things lightly. The slightest thing that goes against you, the body's got your back, sometimes literally. I say that the body is the most empathic entity we have. Well, that's an example of it. So, Christy, here's what I would suggest. Don't fall into the doubt that you can't access it or that you don't have those feelings, and use your body as the tool. Your body's going to tell you. The columns can help you interpret those bodily symptoms, and therefore you can actually feel them. There are times where I feel something in my body and I'm not in touch with it. And I'm typically in touch with my feelings, but not all the time at all. In fact, I often have symptoms when I'm not. And the fact is, when I'm not, I take my body at its word. So sometimes I'll have a symptom and I'll think, I must be feeling the way this symptom is making me feel. And I start to think about it and I pair it up with whatever's happening in the moment, because timing always matters. And that can allow you to at least get an intellectual hold of, oh, I must be feeling this way. That's the next step. So you fought through I'm not sure if I have these feelings. Then you got to, okay, I can see intellectually I must be having these feelings. The step that comes after that, Christy, spend time with that intellectual idea and observe it. And eventually your emotions catch up to it and say, oh, wow. And it's like an aha moment. But you need the intellectual to be put in place first. It's basically what therapy is. Therapy is putting the intellectual in place so that we can sit with it long enough until we hit on the emotion. Okay, Christy, let me know if that answered your question. I hope I did it justice. Catherine Toomer is saying, so excited for the new mind-body consultation. They're a great joy to me, I have to say. People come in and we get to dig in so deep in such a short amount of time. And, selfishly, I get to highlight my work. And it's not that I'm trying to highlight my work to show off, but I want people to see why this works so well for multiple reasons. One of them is that I want to challenge the notion that it's going to take so long to get you the information you need. It doesn't have to take so long, but we do have to have ways of sorting through all of that information that's out there. And that is where the seminars come in play. And then we need the how-to of the moment. I was talking to somebody in the group the other day, and she said, my therapist keeps saying I get in the weeds and then I'm lost, but, I don't really know how to get out. One of the things that the membership groups allow for is I climb in the weeds with you. And I say, oh, I see what you're seeing in here. Here is a way out. Here's another way out. Here's another way out. That's what the groups are for. So we got to keep working at this so that you guys can see it does not actually need to take that long. You do need the right information. And you also need to be able to put aside certain information that you've been given that maybe doesn't fit with your way of understanding it. You're all building your system within my system, but I'm going to give you good information so you can do that and help you look at what's happening and how to think about it. Teresa says she listens to Dan Buglio every day. I've heard that's incredibly helpful for people. Dan puts out a video every single day, which is wonderful. Dan, we're trying to keep up with you here. We can't do it every day, but I do tend to get them out 4 or 5 times a week. So that's, doing some good. But you are doing some great things for people, and we all appreciate it. Okay, we do have time for a preloaded question now. No, we don't. Christy Lee McKinney responded. Preloaded questions are getting jumped. Christy Lee McKinney says, I don't doubt I feel feelings. Good. The thought or emotion passes too quickly to grasp it, and I get pain in my stomach or get a horrible numb feeling with a major headache. Okay, so here's where we need to use intellect, Christy. You're already having the feeling. The body is expressing it, but you need to have the intellectual apparatus to fall back on. This is why we build out the emotions column. We need to build out those themes. And I know we've done some work with that, but maybe we need to hone it more. If we don't need to hone it more, what we could do is just have you utilize it a bit more. Go back to your emotions column in those moments and think which of these, if you feel like your themes are well represented, and say which of these themes is applying now. That's going to get you in the right ballpark. Then you want to keep honing it down more and more and more. So use what you know intellectually. I think what I'm hearing happens is you're having a doubt that you can hold on to the feeling. You say it kind of runs away so fast, and then you're just in the symptom. You don't think you can recover that feeling. Try using the intellect to get you back to what it is. And with some practice, I really think you can. Let me know if that helps. Okay? Catherine Toomer says, my newest attempt at an action step, this one about my tendency to have fear-based doubt about many of my present moments. The thought, I must be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Wait, she is continuing this, so we don't have the second half. So, Catherine, I'll get back to that in a second. But let me think about what you're saying so far. And listen, what I'm doing right now is exactly the kind of thing I'm telling Christy to do, and I tell all of you to do. If it's not making sense yet, back up. Go look at it again. So I'm going to do that because I'm not saying this doesn't make sense, but I don't have the full thought. But I do want to start getting it formulated in my mind so when it's here, I can answer. She says, my newest attempt at an action step, this one about my tendency to have fear-based doubts about many of my present moments. Okay, then she's saying her thought. So I do need to hear the whole thought, Catherine, before I can dive in there. Rhodey Jangles, good to see you here on Instagram. Thanks for joining me. Okay, now it looks like we do have time for a preloaded question. It's time. This one is coming in from Claire. Let's bring it up on the screen. Claire says, does fear have to mean symptoms? I have lots of things, too specific. I have lots of things too specific that trigger it over and over. Do I have to resolve the root issues to heal, or can I just have fear with no pain? Okay, let's leave this up here because there's a couple questions in there, and it's important stuff. So fear does not mean you have to have symptoms. That's a great question. I think sometimes that's one of the ways that fear preys on people, is that it basically says to people, listen, you're going to have to go through the heart of this. You're going to have to figure it all out, and you're never going to figure it out. That's the kind of thing doubt likes to hang its hat on. It gets you afraid. So having the fear can sometimes get you into a cycle of having more fear. And one of the ways you could have more fear is, oh my God, if I'm afraid, I'm going to have symptoms. It's actually not true. What I like to think instead is if you are aware of that fear, just aware of the connection between the fear and the symptoms, you can get rid of the symptoms. This is very important for things like spasms. Spasms are a symptom that is very, very fear-based. And it makes sense to me because they cause a lot of fear. The symptoms, whatever they cause, tends to be the thing that is the root cause in the first place. So if they're causing fear, chances are it's coming from fear. But you don't have to not be, some people say to me, well, does that mean I have to be totally not afraid or I'm going to have spasms? Nope. The minute you know that connection and you know it for certain, no doubt, you don't have to have the symptoms. So fear does not have to mean symptoms. You can just have fear without the symptoms. That in some ways, that's the goal of the emotions column, is to recognize what that emotion is, takes away the function of that particular symptom. This is particularly true with acute symptoms, the onsets and upticks that I talk about. And when you get to that, you can bring it down and not have the symptom, and then just have the feeling. Okay, Claire is, that was a preloaded question, so she's probably not on live, especially given that she's in England, so it's really late at night for her. But Claire, hopefully you're watching this at some point, and let me know if I got that question answered to your satisfaction, because that's the goal of these questions. Okay, I'm going to go back to Catherine Toomer because she has the second half of her question. Let's read it again. My newest attempt at an action step, this one about my tendency to have fear-based doubt about many of my present moments. The thought, I must be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I must be afraid to do the really good thing, the best thing. Instead, I'm just doing this, whatever it is. The feeling, restlessness, not safe in my own skin, not okay with now. There's another cliffhanger. She says, I usually try to figure out, I think what. So I'm going to get back to you on that. But Catherine, I'm going to kind of give you my reflections on what you've said so far. what you're describing to me sounds like level 3 doubt. It's like everything you do, you doubt. And I already know you well enough. It's so fun how quickly I get to know you guys here, because it's partly because of my columns understanding, but it's also partly because what you come here to do is so deep and so in line with who you are that we all get to know each other very quickly, more quickly than most. So I know you well enough to know you grew up, feeling that everything was always at risk, every single decision. And that has made you feel that you can't have full confidence in whatever your decisions will be. So every decision you make, you think, I'm in the wrong place. I just wanted to label that. It's level 3 doubt. Where does level 3 doubt get addressed? In the power column. So level 1 and level 2 doubt, you go head on in the doubt column. Level 3 doubt, usually you're going to need to, there's sometimes you deal with it specifically with a doubt where you observe, articulate, and counter. But other times you're going to need to go over to the power column and ask yourself, now, wait a minute. How am I going to live now? That's how I lived then. This is a very core narrative kind of experience, Catherine. If we understand your core narrative and what has happened to you, the essence of your suffering self, then we can start to figure out, what do you need? What do you need to live differently? So there's more coming in your question, I know, but that's a start. All right, we have a question coming in from Justine from Australia. I feel like I've fallen off the wagon a bit since COVID the last few weeks. I'm almost good again, but original symptom has ramped up. All feels a bit out of my control, which is doubt again, I guess, bingo. Trying to be patient with myself and energy coming back and ability to do the work. Okay, so many things I could say about that, Justine, but I think the central thing I'd want to say to you about this is, yes, not only is that doubt, but this is a good glimpse of how doubt works. So I want you to recognize not just doubt, but I want you to recognize how it works. And the reality is, doubt is going to try to get you wherever it can. And so you had COVID. That's a perfect chance for doubt to come in because you're not in as good a spot. Same thing's happening to me with this kind of scratchy throat, sore throat. Doubt has something that it can actually, prey upon. So I'm in a slightly weaker position than I normally would be from a doubt perspective. From a power column perspective, however, I recognize this as, this is just another opportunity for me to kick doubt's ass. And I really mean that. That doesn't mean I feel great about it all the time, but I can shift over to that power column and say, wait a minute, I'm in a process here. Justine, one of the things I'm hearing here is that doubt is capitalizing on getting you into what I call results-oriented thinking a little bit, but you're doing a good job, I can see it, getting back to process-oriented thinking. Trying to be patient, working with yourself, energy coming back, doubt starting to come down again. Try to think about it this way. We're all going to have moments where we get knocked backwards by doubt. It happens. But if we keep working at it, it cannot win. And that's why I say in the seminars, you need to have the determination to beat doubt. You never stop because it is never going to stop. It's always going to try. But the good news is it doesn't have the advantage. We do, because it's not telling the truth. We are. So don't give yourself a hard time about falling off the wagon. I'd rather actually have you think about it as there was a point of vulnerability, and that opens the door for doubt, and you're going to use that to become stronger. Let me know if that makes sense to you, Justine. Okay, Fruit Loopy 422 says, some of the action steps are very similar to each other, but with different perspectives or wording. Is this because you want to give us many options so we find the wording that really resonates and allows us to move into power or reduce doubt or whatever we need to do? Great question. As always, you guys ask fantastic questions. I would say this, Fruit Loopy. I don't know your real name yet. I think I really like what you're highlighting here because it shows something important about how I think about things. If it's similar but slightly different, it's going to apply very differently. So each one of these is for a given moment. What those, I think you're referring to the action steps PDF or the Mind Body Guide. There's 150 of them. I've said this many times. I could generate 150 more. 450 more, because there's so many different moments. And it really is true that, some of them can be similar to others. Some of them can be very different. There's some that I don't even have there that I use or that other people come up with. But the basic gist is they're all a chance to look at the kinds of things we can do. And some of them take us down one particular path and then veer in one direction that's more helpful. And, others, they go down that same path and then go in completely the opposite direction because we need different moments. So I would say that your question is pretty online, in terms of why do I do it? I'm trying to show you have so many options. And yes, I'm looking for you to find the wording that works for you. Ultimately, what I tell people in the seminars, go looking for maybe 20 to 25 action steps that are like your go-to ones. That doesn't mean they're the only ones that you'll use, but they're the ones that you're going to use a lot. And those action steps were all generated by ones I've used. I've used every single one of them. Every single one, or I wouldn't have been able to come up with them. Maybe there's one or two that, more than one or two, maybe there's 5 to 10 or something that came up in conversation with other people. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. But either way, they all apply to me, every single one of them. I can apply them to me. And there are more. So don't be afraid to write down your other options as you go through it. Ultimately, I say you're building your system within my system. I'm giving you good information, but you need to see how it applies to you. And so I think those alternate wordings or subtleties can help to show that. But the other thing is sometimes you're going to think they're really these little subtleties, but when you actually get into that moment, you might see that they're actually very different. They seem so similar, but they capture something different. I hope I answered that question. For Loopy, let me know. All right. Karen Ainge, good to see you here. And I'm going to finish up on Catherine's question. She said, she's talking about kind of always feeling in the wrong place. And then she said, what? Let me get back to this. I usually try to figure out where I really should be. The action step, acknowledge the wrong time, wrong place, thought, and feeling. Then to fix it, do not try to figure out where I really should be. Instead, try to get to the deep why of it. Then sit with the feelings before moving on, even distracting myself to push on. What do you think? Okay, I think it's great, Catherine. There's one thing that I would add to it, but let me highlight what you're saying, just for people who are listening and thinking about this. What I really like is you're taking a step back. You're not just going with the doubt. You're observing it, actually. And I would say you could even articulate it and wonder, is this actually right? Call it into question. So that's the thing I would add. But what you're doing is you're taking a step back and you are thinking about the deep why of it, as you said. For me, the key to getting better in this mind-body work is for things to make sense. When I read Sarno, he made sense of a lot of things that were not making sense before. And I got a lot better from it. But then there were things that I still didn't understand, and I needed to find out more. And I went exploring that. And in getting those answers, I got more information. So you want to get to the deep why of it. The only thing I would add, as I said, Catherine, is try to remember doubt is trying to get you confused or feeling bad, whatever. A lot of times it's just trying to keep you away from becoming powerful. And what I want you to do is to think about the fact that it's saying something to you that may not be true. And I would, in fact, guess it isn't true. Usually, I take comfort in this, and this is a very power column idea. I feel that I'm rarely in the wrong place. And I don't mean that like in any kind of way where I'm bragging. I actually mean it almost like, it's almost like believing in a higher power in a way. I think that a lot of the things that are guiding me are sending me to the places I need to go. There's a kind of trust in my own journey that I've come to see that we want to build towards. And I think we can get there. I more than think so. I know we can get there. I think it's easier to get there when you understand yourself and where you've been going and why. When you understand that, you won't even feel that you're in the wrong place. You'll realize, oh, that's that old thing. That's not what's really going on here. But I think you're doing great work. I would just add that in. Okay, I hope that helps. All right, let's see. Justine says, yes, it does feel like I've lost power. So she was talking about feeling like she was kind of knocked backwards by doubt. And that has knocked me back with the doubt. Thank you. Yes, total sense. Thank you in terms of my answer. Confirmation, again, for me really helps. It's really important. It's a part of how my system works, is to keep getting these things confirmed for you, because doubt is a nasty, nasty thing. And when I was getting better, when I say was, I mean in terms of the big picture, like not feeling out of the woods yet. Doubt was very confusing. It came in and I didn't even have it labeled as doubt, but that's essentially what it was. I had a lot of work to do to get to a place where I could trust what I was seeing and feel that I knew what was going on. So having these answers again and again, especially I find in a system that can keep them organized and make sense of every little thing, that's part of the reason I developed the system as I did. It's what helped me. I keep hearing from people in the mind-body world that, they might get helped by one particular person's system, another. It doesn't matter to me where you get the help, as long as it makes sense to you. What I do like about my system, though, is if you run into trouble with any system, there's going to be an answer. And we can kind of sort out why. More than kind of. Okay, Karen Isaac says, sometimes I feel so raw, vulnerable, and not able to wear my invisible armor. I notice I feel sick when I see any news, or I feel so scared easily by others' pain. I get scared something bad will happen. Okay, so Karen, this is another good example of what I've kind of been talking about, I'd say, from the start of this Q&A tonight all the way to now. Really, the basic idea is, do you make sense or not? And you always do. So this is kind of like your first question in a way. Why am I in one place at one time, another place at another time? This is a good example of that as well. So I want us to continue to, because I know we've been doing this, think about what distinguishes between one moment and another. I'm going to give you a couple of examples that may or may not apply to you, but they at least illustrate what I'm talking about. So whether you're in a moment of activated trauma is a good, potential example of this. If you're in a moment of activated trauma, that invisible armor is going to feel like it's just not even there. That's what trauma is. And so that's one way to back up and say, wait, why is this moment different? Is my trauma activated? And if so, why? What got it activated? I find it's very helpful to see. I can be like, oh, I was having that conversation with this person and then that happened. Suddenly it makes sense, and I'm not left feeling as in danger because things make sense. You're going to feel more in danger if the world's not making sense to you. And I think when you say, sometimes you feel one way, sometimes you feel another, in a way, that's a lack of safety right there, because you're saying, I don't know when I can trust this or when I can't. I know I'm overstating it, Karen. I know a lot of times you can feel great, but when you're not, try to call into question what I think is kind of a doubt that's hiding in the background, which is maybe this doesn't all make sense. Maybe it can't be made sense of. The column system helps me make sense of every single moment. And when I say that, I do want to add, that doesn't mean I succeed in making sense every single moment. But I do have a belief system that allows me to see that they did make sense, even in retrospect. Even the ones I don't get, I'm like, it did make sense somehow. I just never got to that one. But I keep at it. The one assumption I say to make in my system is you make sense and your symptoms make sense. There are reasons for it, and you're going to feel a lot safer if you can track them. And the columns will help you do that. Karen, let me know if I, got to the heart of what you're saying and if that was helpful. Okay, Catherine said, I have to thank you again for this Q&A and the groups. My articulation of things instantly gets more to the point when I am preparing to present it to you all. A bit scary, but oh, so helpful. So, Catherine, thank you. I appreciate the recognition, and it is wonderful to hear that it's having that impact on you. I do find that articulating these things to each other really, really helps. And, I've learned a lot, not just from you guys and from your questions, but I also learn weirdly from myself as I articulate. Because as I start talking about it, I'm like, oh, wait, I didn't see that. That makes sense. This fits with this. It's what's becoming an age-old joke now, which is, the book takes longer and longer the more I make sense of things, because I now understand something more. And I'm like, now I got to get this in the book. The good news is we're near the tail end of that. I am going to be starting to edit the book with an editor at the beginning of July, and I'm really excited about that because I'll hone it down. If I need to make addendums later, I will. But I feel really good about how the system has come together, and it's all from talking. And one of the ways, not just talking, but talking openly. One of the things I love about this community is how openly we talk about things, because I like to think that one of the ways the system is benefiting people is we're not going to be afraid of how your mind works, no matter who you are. However your mind works, there's nothing wrong with you. We just need to know how to work with it. It's similar to what I was talking about with Fruit Loopy earlier. Yes, we have our own systems. By the way, Fruit Loopy, I did see that you said thank you and that my answer made sense. I'm glad to hear it. So we all have to develop our system that relates to our mind. I knew that when I started building my system. I knew that the system, the overarching system, really worked for me. I knew that the specifics did, but I also knew that you all are not like me, maybe in some ways, but in other ways, not at all. We have to know, we have to have a system that's flexible enough to adjust for everyone, but also holds together enough to make sense for everybody, or else none of it feels like it makes sense. So that's how I try to build the system, and I feel really good about how it's working. Carrie Nordland, good to see you here. And Karen Isaac says, very helpful. Glad to hear it, Karen. Let me know if you need more on that. Okay, it looks like we have time for another preloaded question. This one is from Robert M., who actually, I believe, lives near me. Northeast Ohio guy. So Robert says, hi, Dan. Does taking a daily or every other day over-the-counter ibuprofen or naproxen contribute to doubt and impair the process of mind-body healing? Okay, this actually kind of fits to my last point. And that is that we all have our own individual minds. And on top of it, I'll extend it even further. We also have our own individual minds at individual moments. What that means is we're never in the same place at the same time. So the question is this going to contribute to doubt? Well, actually, let me back up. Robert asked two questions. Will it contribute to doubt? And then also, will it impair the process of mind-body healing? Let me answer the second one first. It will only impair the process of mind-body healing if it does bring about doubt. So the first question actually answers the second. Within reason, because we've got to answer the first in the first place. But the idea is doubt can impair the process of mind-body healing. That's actually what the doubt column is all about. It's explaining why people haven't gotten better when they really understand the mind-body concept. For some of them, they don't actually understand the mind-body concept and need to go over that again. But for a lot of you out there, you do understand it, but you're still not getting better. That, to me, is a sign that doubt is there. I was saying this to somebody in the groups last week. He was saying, I was saying to him, I think you have some doubts about this. He said, well, why? And I said, because you're having the symptom, the chronic symptom. And, you know, the symptoms tell us all we need to know. They tell us which columns are active. They tell us a lot of what's going on. What you often need me for is to interpret that until you've gotten it down where you feel like you can interpret it yourself. So doubt can impair the process of mind-body healing, but it's easily reversed if it's known. You observe it, articulate it, and counter it. So the question that Robert asked in the first place was, you know, does taking an ibuprofen or naproxen over the counter contribute to doubt? And the answer to that is it depends on the mind of that person and at that moment. There are times where I've had a mind-body headache, because actually there's very few other kinds. I mean, if you get slammed in the head, you can have a headache from that, of course. But if you didn't have anything like that and you've developed a headache, it's mind-body for sure. And there are times where I've said to myself, I want to take some Advil. I just want to get rid of this, not think about it. It's hurting too much. The interesting thing is actually Advil barely works for me anymore now that I know the mind-body thing. It's like I can't use the placebo as much as I used to. Ibuprofen, don't get me wrong, it does help with inflammation and it can help with pain, but mind-body issues have a way of cutting through a lot of medications. The question here, though, is it going to contribute to doubt or not? Ask yourself that question before you do it. If you say to yourself, you know what, if I give into this, it's actually going to make my doubt go up, then I actually wouldn't do it if you can help it. Because if doubt goes up, it's actually going to be harmful to you. Well, not harmful to you, but it's going to it's going to hinder you in a certain way. So I like to ask that question. I do a similar thing, actually. Let's say you look in the refrigerator and you see a piece of food. I think I said this 2 weeks ago, but it's relevant again. You look in the fridge and you're like, I don't know if that one, that food is still good enough. Don't eat it if it's going to cause doubt, because if it's going to cause doubt, it could cause a symptom. So I gauge in advance, along the lines of what Robert's saying. And is it going to cause doubt in me or not? Now, there are times where it's going to surprise you. You thought it wouldn't, and then it did, or you thought it would, and it didn't. But try to assess it first. So it's going to depend. Try to assess it first. Ultimately, you can get doubt down anyway. Hope that helps. Okay, Fruit Loopy says, would you agree that thoughts can be changed moment to moment, but some symptoms cannot change moment to moment, and so you shouldn't feel bad about that? Specifically, I think pain can disappear in an instant, but things like fatigue or other body issues might require time. Really great question with a lot of depth to it. So I'm going to I'll give you the short answer, Fruit Loopy, but I may write this one down as one to bring back next time to revisit more. So I do agree with you that I think thoughts can be changed moment to moment. I do find that some symptoms can't change moment to moment quite as easily, but I have an explanation for it. In addition to having an explanation for it, I do agree with you that you shouldn't feel bad about that. There are going to be times where you can't move the symptom as well. And I'm going to describe them. Each column describes actually a potential situation for when the symptom can't move. So in the emotions column, if a symptom can't move, you haven't hit on the emotion perfectly. Not specific enough. Now, that's if it's an emotions column issue, meaning it's there for distraction in that Sarnonian kind of way, where, the symptom is taking you away from the emotional experience. But it may not be that that's where the symptom really lies. So you can move over to the doubt column and explore there. In the doubt column, sometimes you can't get things down because you can't master the doubt. Here's a good example with my voice right now. I can't master the doubt enough to get rid of this yet. It could be that I need to rest my vocal cords a little bit, maybe. That wouldn't take very long, though. And I know the doubt is just churning. It's loving this because it doesn't get many chances with me. Well, here's one. And it's diving in and trying to fight it. So if I can't bring doubt down enough, the symptoms could stay for that reason. And then they can also stay for a power column reason. And I actually think this is probably the one that you're relating to most, Fruit Loopy, based on what you're describing and how I know how these things work. There are times where a symptom is there, especially when you've hit on just the right emotional thing, it's right, and the symptom doesn't go away. That is because from a power column perspective, symptoms are communication. And you may need time with that communication. That's the reason I think that you're talking in this direction, because you're saying that, some symptoms might require time. Power column symptoms do require time. So that was a long-winded way of answering your question, but hopefully a useful one, because what it captures is there are 3 columns. Each column can describe a part of the problem for why it might take longer at one moment versus another. And that's a helpful way of understanding it, I think. But Fruit Loopy, you let me know. Okay. Justine says, yes, no medication ever helped my primary pain ever, even strong ones, which was my first hint. It was mind-body for me. I once spasmed straight through muscle relaxers. That was very convincing, actually. It wasn't fun, but, actually, Fruit Loopy had a continuation of that. I'll get back to that in a second, Fruit Loopy. Hold on a second. So, yeah, Justine, I find that any confirmation we can get of mind-body is very important. And I used to feel kind of freaked out. Oh, my God, some of these medications don't work. By the way, there's plenty of medications that do work, no matter what you're doing. I mean, if you take a heavy sleeping pill or an anxiety pill or whatever, these things generally do work. In fact, the muscle relaxer did relax my muscles. It just didn't stop them from spasming. So I guess the point would be you've got your mind-body process and you got your physical processes, and they can be happening at the same time. Rita says, yes, I spasmed more with baclofen, LOL. That was definitely a clue. So similar experiences across the board. We've all had them. Okay, Fruit Loopy was saying, let's see, I need to back up. Specifically, I think pain can disappear in an instant, but things like fatigue or other body issues might require time or a digestive symptom. I'm not sure it would instantly clear up. Actually, I do agree with that, Fruit Loopy. There are certain, sorry, I keep calling you that. I don't have your name yet, but if you want to provide it for me, I'll hold on to it. But there's certain symptoms that lend themselves more to doubt, actually. And those are ones also that, the doubt column version of why does a symptom hang on. And I think that things like fatigue or digestive system, those things, okay. You said your answer helped, but I was thinking more physiologically. Oh, got it. Okay. So that also can happen. However, I would say this. In my experience, there are some symptoms that take longer to clear up. I think this is one of the reasons that my vocal cords are actually having an issue right now, is that I have an idea in my head that they take longer, and maybe they actually do. It's still not going to take super long, but, I talk for a living. So the idea that I could have an issue that wouldn't get addressed as well from a physiological standpoint makes plenty of sense. It might even be true to some degree. So I get you. Whatever you do, though, keep going after the doubt, because a lot of times doubt's hiding in that kind of ideology. Either way, you can get to what these symptoms are. I do want to say one other thing about the physiological aspect of things from a digestive system angle. Sometimes those symptoms happen so fast that you can't even get past them. I mean, people describe having diarrhea, and it's just like, boom. How are you supposed to, stop it when it's over? Obviously, the question becomes, you're going to have it, increasingly more and more, or, are you having it more than once? So does it still need to be something that needs to be processed? Either way, symptoms are as unique as we are. And how they apply is as unique as our minds are, because we apply them the way we apply them. So we've got to think of ourselves as moment-to-moment beings, understand that we're different than everybody, and process them. But the columns can provide a framework to look at that. So hopefully I answered your question more from a physiological standpoint this time, but we can get back to it as needed. Okay, guys, we do have to wrap up for today. I just wanted to remind you guys that the podcast, the audio side, has switched over to Spotify. It's $5.99 a month. We're cranking out new content. The old content is all available on the old features, but the new content is going to be on Spotify, is already on Spotify. That's $5.99 a month. We're going to be moving our video over eventually to our own network called the Sapphire Network. I'm going to keep you posted on it as the time comes. That's going to be happening kind of in mid-July or probably early August at the latest. It's going to have a similar kind of expenditure to the Spotify side of things. The old content will all be on YouTube as well. I will keep you posted. I want you guys to have access to this information. I want it to be affordable. I want it to be useful. I want it to be good. And, I'm continuing to love bringing this content to you. Again, the seminars are coming up. If you feel like you want to get your questions answered about all this mind-body stuff and how to think about the whole thing, that's a great way to do it. If you need help with specific moments, feel free to bring them here, but you also can come to the membership groups and get a little more personalized attention, a little more back and forth, in the groups. And you also get the benefit from the other people in the groups because they ask great questions and you see me answering them, and people learn a lot from each other. Guys, this was a pleasure as always. I look forward to seeing you the same time next week, and we will talk then. Thanks, everybody.